Hey everyone, Jessica Coulter here, and we're going to be talking about fractions today. So I just want to go over some of the basics in case you or your child is brand new to the concept of fractions. So in case you don't know who you're listening to, my name is Jessica Coulter, and I am the CEO and founder of Ace Cookie Tutoring. So I love to help students when they are struggling with math, especially middle school math, or maybe a little younger, a little older. So I am so glad to be here helping you, and I hope to make this a really easy concept for you. Okay, so as we get started, let's go over some definitions. So the first one here is, what is a fraction? Well, a fraction in its simplest form is part of a whole in numerical form. So like we've got on our screen here, we've got 3 slices of watermelon. Well, we have no idea how many pieces are in the watermelon, so we can't make a fraction just yet. And we also need to know that there are 2 types of fractions. There's proper fractions and improper fractions. And we're going to go into the nitty-gritty of what I really mean about when it's proper or improper on the next slide. All right, so we've introduced the concept of improper fractions and proper fractions. So let's go into some more detail. A proper fraction is going to have a numerator and a denominator. All fractions do, but a proper fraction is going to have a numerator smaller than the denominator. And if you're kind of wondering what a numerator is and what a denominator is, we'll go over that soon. So just bear with me. Now, an improper fraction is a little different than a proper fraction. It's considered improper because the number on top, the numerator, is larger than the denominator. And so what happens is when I simplify the improper fraction, I'm going to find out that its value is greater than 1. And the way I simplify, in case you want a little kind of sneak peek, is by making it into a mixed number. So I don't want to go into a lot of detail yet, but a mixed number or mixed fraction, depending on where you live, you might know it as one or the other. You're going to see a whole number as well as some fractions. So there's going to be a whole number right next to a fraction, and together those are a mixed number. All right, at this point we have talked about the different types of fractions, but we really haven't figured out what a numerator is or a denominator is. So I want to make sure you guys have that down, because if you don't understand that, then fractions can be really confusing. So the numerator is always going to be the number on top. So no matter what type of fraction it is, if it's improper or proper, you're going to have a numerator because you're going to have a number on top. Now, a way to think about what a numerator is, if I had a watermelon or a cake or a pizza or whatever I had, how many pieces that I have or that I possess, that I get to have in my hands or I get to eat, whatever it might be, that is my numerator. Now, it's really important to realize the numerator has to be equal. So if that watermelon's not cut into equal slices, then it's never going to be able to be a fraction. Now, the denominator, on the other hand, is going to be the number on the bottom. Okay? So again, it has to be equal, just like the numerator, but the difference here is the denominator is how many pieces total. So if I cut my watermelon or my pizza into 8 slices, and they're all equal slices, so I can have a fraction, then how many ever slices total there are is the denominator, whereas how many ever I eat, or that someone takes away, that is going to be the numerator. So if you're a little confused, we're going to look at some examples here in just a second. So before we go too much farther, just want to stop and let you know that I do have other resources available for you and your children. If you are looking for some more homework help, or maybe some study tips or test taking strategies, or just more resources like this, I would love to have you in my Facebook group. All you have to do to join is go to the link on your screen and answer a couple questions, and I'd love to have you. All right, so now that we know what our definitions are, and we kind of have an idea of how fractions work, let's put some of these new concepts into action. Now I just want to point out that if you hear the word fraction, you're going to probably see something like you have on your screen, the 2/3 or the 3/4. You don't have to say proper fraction. I just want to make sure you guys knew there was a difference. So this 2/3 that's here on my screen, that means the 2 is the numerator, and it means the 3 is the denominator. So I'm going to go ahead and write that up here for you guys in case that helps. And the same thing with 3/4. Top number is going to be the numerator, bottom number is the denominator. Okay, so denominator. And then we've got the top, which is the numerator. Okay, so now that we've got that reviewed, the next thing I want to do is I want to show you guys what 3/4 would look like if I actually had a watermelon. So if I look here on the screen, this bottom watermelon, so we've got a circle, and then I've got these black lines. And these black lines are dividing the watermelon into 4 pieces. So that's how I get the denominator. I see the 4 equal pieces. And the fact that they're equal is really important, because if they weren't equal, then it wouldn't be considered a fraction. Now, if I had 3, so that's how many pieces I have, the easiest thing for me to do for you guys is just to kind of color it in here. So if I was really, really hungry, or maybe I had some friends and I want to share watermelon with, I could eat myself or with my friends 3/4 of the watermelon. So each piece is considered 1/4. So if I have 1/4 of the watermelon and then someone else eats another 1/4, and then again, someone else is hungry and eats another piece, then that means we've all eaten, and each of us has eaten 1/4, which means 3/4 of the watermelon is gone or eaten. So just wanted to give you guys some practical experience with the idea of fractions and how they really look. All right, up next, let's look at some examples of improper fractions. So if you see, I've got 7/2, and then I have 9/5. So you might hear that as 7/2 or 9/5. Now remember what we talked about. An improper fraction has a bigger numerator than denominator. So 7 is my numerator and it's bigger than the denominator. So that's how I know that I have an improper fraction. Now I could go ahead and simplify these for you guys into mixed numbers, but I don't want to get too far ahead. This video is just an introduction. So if you are curious and working on making improper fractions into mixed numbers, make sure you stay tuned in the future for my next video. Alright, so we just talked about improper fractions. Now let's talk about mixed numbers. So just like we talked about in the very beginning of the video, I've got a whole number, that's 1, and then I have 3/4. So that is how I know I have a mixed number. I have a whole number, and then right next to it is a fraction. Now I hope you notice that a mixed number does not have an improper fraction. It has to be a proper fraction in order to be considered a mixed number. And I've got my picture up here just to give you guys some visual. If I had 1 3/4, that means I'd have a whole watermelon and then almost another whole one. And we can make these mixed numbers into improper fractions. That is something that you or your child will probably need to do for a homework assignment or maybe on a test. So that is something we'll discuss in the next video. Today I just want to give you some basics and some definitions to get you started. All right, at this point we've covered all the definitions and we've looked at some examples. So before we go into some quizzes just to see how well you understood everything, I want to let you know that I do offer lessons in person as well as online. So if you are struggling or your student is, or you just think it might be easier to work with a tutor one-on-one to learn how to do math or fractions in particular, would be so happy to work with you and find out how I can help your student ace his or her math class. So all you have to do to schedule a lesson is go to the link on your screen, acecookie-tutoring.com/book online. So let's go ahead and move on to those quizzes. So here we go. We've got our first quiz question. Which of the following is an improper fraction? So take a moment to remember the definition of an improper fraction. If you didn't really understand that concept or you're drawing a blank, highly recommend before you look at the answer that you go back to the previous slides towards the beginning of the presentation and review what an improper fraction is. So our choices are 1/7, 2/5, 9/2 or 9/2, and then 5/6 or 5/6. So take a minute there, or maybe just a few seconds, decide A, B, C, or D, which of the following is an improper fraction. Okay, so if you have your answer, great. Otherwise, go ahead and pause it and take as long as you need to decide which of the following is an improper fraction. So my answer is C, 9/2. And the reason why, 9 is bigger than 2. And when I have an improper fraction, the numerator, or the number on top, is always bigger than the denominator, the number on the bottom. Okay, let's go for question number 2, quiz number 2. This question says, which of the following is the correct denominator for this picture? So, think about what a denominator is, and then take a moment to look at the picture and decide how many pieces that watermelon is being cut into. And decide, is denominator top or bottom? And remember if it's possessive, like how many you have, or if it's total, try to remember. Otherwise, go back and re-listen to previous slides. So my choices are 3, 1, 4, or 2. So before you look at the answer, take a minute, come up with your choice, pause the video if you need to. So my answer is C, 4. So I have those yellow lines, and they are dividing the watermelon into 4 equal slices. Because remember, denominator is a total number of pieces or slices of whatever I have, and it has to be equal. Okay, here is the last quiz question, and this one is asking for the numerator in the fraction 10/13. So we just talked about denominators, so hopefully that helps you figure out what the numerator is. And again, feel free to review if you need to. So my choices: 13, 5, 11, and 10. So we're going to go ahead and show the answer. Remember to pause if you need a moment. So the answer here is 10. 10 is the numerator. So for the sake of this video, we're keeping it really simple and we're not simplifying anything. In the future, this could be a trick question if you could simplify the numerator and denominator, but we'll talk about that in a future video. So for this particular video, for this particular question, you should have only been considering 10 and 13. 5 and 11 were answers you could have just thrown out the door because they were not possibilities. Well, that's everything I have for you today. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening and watching this presentation. If you do have some more questions and you think you could use some one-on-one help, would love to work with you. Just go to that link, acecookie-tutoring.com/book online. And also know I have a YouTube channel. So if you are watching this on YouTube, would love to have you as a subscriber. So just go to my channel, second bullet there. And lastly, would love to have you join my email list. So if you'd like to get my monthly newsletters, all you have to do is send an email to acecookie-tutoring@gmail.com. Well, thank you so much again. Just remember, this is part 1. There will be many future videos all about fractions. Hope to see you soon.